When is it okay to skip church? Miss church and skip church is different. It's okay to skip church when you absolutely don't want to. That's an old rule of thumb my friend told me, and I've loved that, and I've kind of used it ever since. He said, well, this is first my heart check. He goes, when I feel like I cannot go to church and I'm bummed because I want to be at church, but I just can't go because something is dragging me away. He goes, I realize it's probably okay for me to miss. He goes, and yet, when I don't feel like going to church, he goes, those are the days I know I must drag my rear to church because that's where I need to be. Now, that's kind of just like a wrestling with the flesh side, because this question has so many dynamics, right? Because we all have different situations, different things that might pull us in different directions. And so things to think about. It's like, yes, you know, we do a camping trip once a year or this or that. I think most families have traditions where they're going to be gone a couple weekends a year. You know what my family does? We go to another church. We're not missing church. We're just going to a different church. That's a thing, right? If you're authentically sick, and this is what I usually tell people is, and this is like, that's controversial too, because that's so subjective on how people feel about it, but typically, if I would call into work sick, I would skip church. If I would just go to work, I'd probably go to church. Now, it also depends on like work. Maybe there's no chance of contaminating anyone. You work by yourself in a field with no one for miles and you just tough it out. But at church, you could get other people sick, right? Again, so many levels of dynamics to these questions. But I just throw out there, you know, there are people who are authentically sick and they don't want to contaminate others. So when I'm talking to them, I have one message. There are people who are in the flesh, can't go to church today. And they're looking for any excuse they can find to miss church. I'm just saying, that's the issue with this question. And that's why I like my friend's advice. When something pulls me away, like, you know, I really would love to be at church. I love church, but I have to go to this thing. And maybe I have to go do my family thing because I want to be at my family thing too. And this is something we do and it's okay. Or maybe it's this or maybe it's that. You work. My wife works weekends or used to have to work weekends, you know, because she works a job where to have this job, you must work every other weekend. That's just part of the gig. So you miss weekends. Or we don't have doctors available on, you know, in the weekends. I think everyone likes being able to go to the ER on the weekend and have hospital care overnight if you're in the hospital as a patient. So it's like, so yes, some people have jobs that keep them away. But when I say, when is it okay to skip church? I like that, friend. It's just a generic answer. When something's dragging you away from church because it's important, but your heart is, man, I wish I could be at church, but I know this is important, there's a good time to skip church. When you feel like you don't want to be at church, that's the exact time you want to go to church. Because I'll be honest with you guys, and Sunday nights is a great example. I always have said this about my youth studies in the weeks. There are many, many, many nights, especially the youth study. Sunday nights, like I've already been there in the morning. I'm talking still now in this season of my life. I do not want to go to youth study tonight. I just don't want the kids. I'm in a bad mood. I'm grumpy, and I don't want to do it. I've never left a youth study like regretting that I was there with those kids, going through the Word of God, singing worship, and doing all these things. And I know a lot of people have said that about Sunday nights. I had to drag my butt to church, but I've never left Sunday night like, man, that was a big waste. And if you feel that way, just, I'm not looking, I'm not listening. But that's the thing, is sometimes we have to drag ourselves to church because we did not want to go, but we leave like that was a good thing.